Committee on Fiscal Oversight will now come into session. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Thompson-Raider.
Present.
Senator Bernskader. Senator Searpoint. Senator Coleman. Senator Fitzwater. Senator Koenig. Senator Rizzo. Senator Roberts. We have a quorum.
Seeing that we have a quorum, we will get started. I apologize for being late. I was in the House presenting a bill that was very interesting. Okay, we will start with House Committee substitute for House Bills 1818 and 2345. Representative Voss, we are ready when you are.
Good morning. My name is John Voss. I represent District 147 in the city of Cape Girardeau, and I'm the sponsor of House Bill 1818. Representative Riggs is the sponsor for House Bill 2345. Those were mirror languages as we filed those and presented those in the House side of the building. This bill really, the core of this bill, 1818 and 2345, really has to deal with the ability, providing the ability for the Office of Administration to negotiate some parts of a contract after the award has been made. This is a similar bill to what was presented in 2023 as House Bill 752. It was part of another bill that year that included some language around how to notify for public meetings and allowing that to be done in electronic means, and that was what sunk the bill last year. This year, 1818 and 2345 have emerged from the House, both in the General Laws Committee as well as the Consent and House Procedures, with 100% in favor of this, including witness testimony, and it passed out of the House as a consent with 137 yes and 0 no's. Some of the things that we're trying to do here, this bill originated, was brought to me from the Office of Administration, and their intent is to try and reduce the time it takes for our government to award and negotiate contracts, which will also then reduce the cost to taxpayers. The things that the Office of Administration would like to negotiate post-award are non-financial, non-judging terms of any particular contract. So these are things like intellectual property and some of the boilerplate language that's pretty standard. Having worked in corporate America and private industry for over 3 decades, this is a real similar reapplication of what happens in every day in business in the United States. I won't belabor the point, but I think this is a very a bill that would enable better government efficiency. A lot of things that we talk about sometimes on the campaign trail about how to reduce government spending and time and be able to bring services to citizens in a more timely fashion. Again, I'm here to really testify in support of the core of 1818, and I'd be happy to take any questions at this point.
Before we go into the questions for this witness, how many people are here to testify in favor? How many are here to testify against? Clay? Looks like we're going to wrap yours up pretty quick. Representative? Okay, do we have any questions for Representative?
And Madam Chair, just one other thing, there are members of the team from the Office of Administration here that I think could answer any specific questions. If there are more technical questions, I would be happy to phone a friend. And so,
perfect. No questions for the Representative? Seeing none? Okay. Anyone here wishing to testify for? Change mind? Anyone here wishing to testify against? Anyone here for informational purposes? Seeing none? Representative, would you like to have any closing comments?
no, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This completes our hearing on House Committee substitute for House Bills 1818 and 2345. I now move that we go into executive session. Moved and have a second. I move that we bring up House Bill 1516. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion on the bill?
Was that the earnings tax legislation by Representative
Yes.
Murphy? Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I now move that we do pass House Bill 1516. Do I have a second? I have a second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Thompson Raider.
Aye.
Senator Bernstetter. Senator Searpoint. Senator Coleman. Senator Fitzwater. Senator Koenig. Senator Rizzo. Senator Roberts.
By your vote of 5-2, you have moved do pass House Bill 1516. I now move that we go out of executive session. Do I have a second? I have a second. We are now out of executive session. I move our House Committee substitute for House Bill 1775 is next. Representative Perkins, we are ready when you are.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Chad Perkins, the 40th District, Pike and Lincoln County. House Bill 1775 has two main provisions. The first is homeless youth ID. It allows for youth who are homeless to get a free ID the first time. That would be, well, obviously, they would still have to have all the provisions, and anybody else would have to have birth certificate, Social Security card, those sorts of things, plus some indication from a government official, whether that is a school counselor or a court-appointed guardian, that would say that they are in fact homeless, and they would get that ID for free for the first time. It's real helpful for folks when they're trying to get a job or continuing their education. The second provision has to do with license offices. It has to do with an increase. Obviously, they're dealing with inflation and the same things every other business is dealing with, and as you know, those are by and large private businesses with state contracts, and they're trying to pay their staff accordingly, like everyone is at the moment, and so they're dealing with that, and it's just a really hard time for them. So it has that in it. It has a few other provisions in it as well, including the Champion for Children's donated food tax credit. People pay a tax credit. They pay $500 worth of tax credits to a food bank. The state oversells the tax credit. You only get $400 worth of credit for it. You pay your taxes in April. July, when they rectified that, you still owe $100, although you thought you paid it through the tax credit to the food bank. And then the state charges you penalties and interest on top of that. It simply says you still owe your $100, but if you made the tax credit donation, the penalties and interest are waived until the time in which the state tells you which, you still owe a little money or whatever. So it makes perfect sense. It deals with fleet vehicles. It deals with actually getting a renewal for your electric car, because that's kind of a new technology. We're trying to catch up with that, so you can get that on a 2-year renewal as well. It has some staggering of vehicle registrations. It deals with permanent disabilities and the placard for that, moving it from 4 years to 8 years, because it already can be a little inconvenient for folks. And if the disability is permanent, you don't need to get that every 4 years from your doctor. If it's permanent, it is by definition permanent, So it's very convenient for Missouri citizens with disabilities. And privacy of motor vehicle records is included in there, which I think is pretty innocuous and we can all agree on. There's a handful of provisions in there, but if you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you for that. Before we go to questions, I would like to tell the committee that on these House bills, I am hoping to vote them out tomorrow if the committee agrees. And so I think that we are down close enough to the end game that we need to be moving the legislation that's good and that has a chance. And so that is my intention, unless anyone talks me into it otherwise. So with that, be sure that y'all ask questions. Does anyone have any questions for the representative? Seeing none, thank you.
Well,
Do we
thank
have anyone? Oh, go ahead.
I just want to thank you for those comments. I certainly agree with them 100%.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Do we have anyone wishing to testify in favor? Come on forward. Be sure to fill out a witness form and leave that, and just start when you are ready, sir.
Thank you. My name's Ryan Williams. I am the original founder of the Missouri Association of License Offices, as well as a current agent in the Kansas City area in the Northland. I'm here to speak on, and I'll try to keep this brief in interest of the time of the committee, but I speak with agents I am kind of the point of contact throughout the state with agents. I probably hear from 8 to 10 agents a day. Where I can tell you the real problems are in the rural communities especially. I've got a list of offices, including large offices, that just in the last year the agents have actually asked the Department of Revenue to rebid. They want out. And just to quickly go into those, because you think about the small offices, yeah, it's really tough for a little office in Potosi, Missouri, for example, that brings in $25,000 a year or so, and has staff and rent and utilities, office supplies, and all. But to give you an idea of offices that have actually been handed back in the last 6 months, Chesterfield, Missouri, Independence, St. Joseph, Columbia South, South Springfield, Parkville, Cameron, again, Potosi, Wentzville, Central West End's on its way. I know of 12 others. We are literally in a crisis. We have, though we did have a fee increase about 4 years ago, that's the only fee increase we've had since 1999. We've had one fee increase. Just in the last 4 years, our average hourly wages have doubled, rents and all, and literally without this fee increase, you're going to see a mass closure of offices, in my belief. And I believe if you talk to the Department of Revenue, they've identified over 40 offices that are in danger of closing at this point. I know there's almost 20 in North Missouri alone. And I always use my friend in Brookfield, Jenny, as an example. She's been literally going into her retirement for the last year, wanted to give it back. I told her to hang on in hopes we could get this done. I spoke with her again this morning. She doesn't even know if she can hang on if we do pass this bill. But she's kept it open for the citizens of her community. And as she said, I would probably have to leave the community if I close this license office. So I do ask that you guys support this bill. It is much needed. This is a service that's vital to the public, especially in the rural areas. You close one office, someone may be driving 30 or 40 miles to the next office. So with that, I'll close. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. I've been doing this for 30 years. I can probably answer about any question you throw at me.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for this witness? Senator?
Thank you. What was the increase we did 3 or 4 or 5 years ago? How much was that?
That was in 1999. It was $3 per transaction.
No, I mean the one we just did here recently. We just did one
In 2019.
2019. It was
Right.
how much was it?
That was for $3 a transaction.
Okay, an increase of $3.
An increase of $3 per
Which brings it to how much?
$6.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And is this related to mostly inflation, or is it because so much is going online now and volumes
no.
are dropping?
Well, the online, actually, and we've got to thank Director Wallingford for that, because the online was drastically, it was putting us out of business. The department has sent that online business back to the offices now. Otherwise, we wouldn't be surviving now.
That's what I understand. Like I bought a car a year ago from CarMax. Just paid all the taxes, everything there. I think they get 1 or 2% of the taxes for collecting it.
Right.
And then they do the license stuff. I think they told me they send all their volume to one license offices.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So probably those license offices are doing fine if they're handling a big company like that that has a lot of volume. It's the ones that don't get that. Are they the ones maybe more impacted?
Well, it's yes and no. So a lot of that, where you talk about CarMax, they probably sent it into the state, which goes to actually an agent now. There's in Jefferson City here, there's an area called MIPLO. What used to all flow into the state, especially on the large packages, flows to that office. That has obviously hurt all offices throughout
So that
the state.
office is probably doing very well.
That office
in
probably
elements.
does well. It doesn't even deal with customers walking in.
Yeah, okay.
But really, so to give you an example, as you know, Senator, I have Gladstone, North Kansas City, and Liberty. In 2019, we were starting out roughly at $10 an hour. We're at $20 and $22 an hour starting now. My rent, and when you get into the large offices, as I've always said, the rural offices have a real problem, but the large offices do too, because we're paying a lot more hourly rate to get to people. My rent in Gladstone, for example, is $5,600 a month for just a licensed office rent. Office supplies, I go through about $1,800 a month in toner cartridges alone. All those things have doubled. So it's really the inflation over the last 4 years and the wages that have just made it untenable. We're literally competing with McDonald's for staff, and we cannot pay any more than what we're paying. We'll literally turn our keys in.
All right. Thank you. Madam Chairman.
Any other questions for the Senator Bernstein?
You mentioned that the offices They turned them in? Is that what you said?
So there have been several. But for example, like the Cameron license office recently, they called me, and then I spoke with Director Wallingford as well. They're like, we can't hold on. We want to fulfill our contract, but please see if they can move it up on the bid schedule. We want out. That's happened in Potosi, Piedmont, areas all over the state.
You said they turned them in.
Well, I apologize for my wording. If that's they did, they said they are not renewing their contract, not taking an extension.
No, but you mentioned a whole bunch of offices that you said.
Oh, okay. I shouldn't say turned in. So my wording was incorrect on that. They did not want to rebid it and did not rebid it. They have been rebid and did not rebid.
So nobody's closed their office?
No, you'd have to address Zach on that. There have been offices that have closed.
Okay, you mentioned some at the beginning.
Well, what I was mentioning in that, Senator Bernsketter, was the offices that have literally stopped, they wanted out, and they were not going to go past the final date of their contract and did not. They were put out to bid in the ones that I mentioned, the Chesterfields, Independence and all. They fulfilled their contract, and that was it, to the date of their contract, and they did not rebid their offices.
So who's taking care of those people? They have to drive somewhere?
Well, no. The Department of Revenue put those back out to bid, and people are bidding them, not knowing. I mean, and they found that in many times, like in downtown St. Louis, I believe it happened. The city of St. Louis had it. They did not rebid it. The state rebid it out, and the first person, or the people who thought that they were going to make money at it, lasted about 3 months and closed it back up, as I understand it. You're finding people, especially in the communities, that they might see the number of the gross sales of the license office, but they aren't taking into account what payroll is, rent, and all that. They get in. If they have not got experience in this business, they find out that it's not only not lucrative, but they could be going into their own pockets. And
you mentioned a bunch of the bigger offices that don't want to rebid, but you said it was harder on the little offices, but none of the little offices said they wanted to rebid.
That's not true.
That's when you started out. What were the names of the groups that you said? List them again.
Okay, as far as the offices that I first mentioned were Chesterfield, Independence, St. Joseph, Columbia
those
South.
are all bigger offices.
Those
You
are all
said
bigger
offices. Tougher for the little offices, but
Potosi.
all you did was mention big offices.
Potosi was mentioned in that, and that's not a big office. Piedmont's not a big office. It's a very small office. Those are two. I didn't try to go through. I just got notice of this hearing, so I just tried to go off memory this morning and make some notes. I'd be happy to get back with you because there are other offices.
Okay, well, I know of one that said they're doing great,
Okay.
With the increase that we gave them a few years ago.
Okay. I can tell you, we have a member from Versailles, which I believe is in your district, that may actually contradict that a little bit, but I
I
understand.
didn't say it was Versailles.
Okay. I didn't. I
Okay.
agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And I think Zach can probably give us some deeper details on that. Any other questions for this witness? Seeing none? Thank
All right.
you.
Thank
Please be
you.
sure to leave a
Appreciate it.
witness form.
Everyone.
Anyone else wishing to testify in favor, please come forward. And be sure to fill out and leave a witness form. Perfect. Thank you. We're ready when you are.
All right. Hi, my name is Tiffany Letterman. I'm a CPA and the Versailles License Office agent. What Ryan is saying is difficult. It's true. We are located between two offices, and the closest other office is 30 minutes one direction and 45 minutes the other. You mentioned online coming back to the offices earlier. My people prefer to come face-to-face and sit down and do business inside. So I think city offices are seeing the help from that, but I may make $42 a day on online transactions. It obviously varies, but it's not, the rural offices are not seeing everyone going online like we're hoping to. That was kind of the big, yay, this is maybe going to help us. I first bid my office after the previous agent decided she was done. They put it out for bid, and I thought, well, I live here. This is great. We don't want it to close. So I bid my office. I was a solo bidder then. At that time, my office was up for rebid this last year, actually, and I was, again, a solo bidder. So if I didn't continue to do this with the hopes of a fee increase, then there probably wouldn't be an office in Versailles because no one bid with it or for it. My staff costs have increased exponentially, just like what Ryan was saying. We're obviously in a smaller area, so we're not quite paying city prices. But what used to be a $9 an hour job and considered a good job in town is now $16 to $18, which is difficult. I'm having a difficult time finding staff that are not competing against going to clean somewhere for $20 an hour. We're just not able to offer, and plus I try to offer, PTO to them and things to incentivize elsewhere without an hourly rate, but it's also difficult to be short-staffed and find people to cover. So I believe that's all. Are there any questions?
Thank you for that. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you so much. Anyone else wishing to testify in favor?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Chuck Pierce, here today representing the Missouri Society of CPAs. Want to go on record in support of the amendment that was added, the provision to waive interest and penalties for the food pantry credits. We're seeing that as an increasing problem. What happens is the state is at the cap pretty much every year. So as a representative explained, it works like this. You fill out the form, you claim the credit, then in July, you get a letter from the Department of Revenue that says, well, you didn't get all those credits because the state ran out. And you owe us $50 plus interest plus penalties for that. And it can only be fixed with a change in the statute. There's no way to fix it on the form. You don't know what that cap is going to be when you fill out the taxpayer's form. So we would, and several of the other credits already had that. So we appreciate that. This is the only place that is. There was a standalone bill in the House, but it hasn't moved, so we'd appreciate you moving that forward. It reflects, it's the question the CPA gets, because why'd you mess up my return? And then it's the question that the food pantry gets, which is, I thought you told me I was going to get a credit for this, and now I don't. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you so much. Anyone else wishing to testify in favor, please come forward.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Robin Shelp, and I'm Director of Policy and Advocacy for Kids One Missouri. And we want to go on record of support of House Bill 1775, specifically the underlying language, which would waive the fee for an ID for a youth who is homeless. We host a youth homelessness coalition quarterly, in which we bring together providers who serve youth who are homeless throughout the state. And removing barriers to getting an ID is one of the top priorities for this group. An ID is needed for so many things, like Representative Perkins mentioned. You need it for school, for a bank account, for a library card, which gives you access to internet. So many uses. It may not seem like a big deal to a lot of people. It's $18, but that is huge for these individuals. And so I thank Representative Perkins for working on this, and I'm open to questions.
Do we have any questions for this witness? Senator Serpoy?
Thank you. I'm just curious, for somebody that's homeless on an ID, what do they use for an address? Or
Yeah, so there is a form, and Zach maybe will speak more. It's Form 5062, and this is for a youth or even an adult who's homeless. And basically, they work with a nonprofit or certain types of organizations that allow them to use their address.
okay, so you could have several people with the same
Oh, yes.
on the side. I mean,
Yes.
okay.
Like there are nonprofits that that's who they support, and so
Okay.
a lot of individuals use their address.
So that point in time, and then going forward, I mean, that's not accurate, but it's what they used.
It's what they, and that already exists.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you so much. Anyone else wishing to testify in favor? Anyone wishing to testify against? Anyone for informational purposes only? Please come forward. Begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and senators. So I just wanted to kind of address some of the questions that were being asked in regards to these various provisions are in House Bill 1775. One of the things, there's a lot of different provisions that are. A lot of you guys have heard about our new our new system that we're putting into our motor vehicle and driver's license system, the integrated motor vehicle and driver's license system we've been working on. So just to give you guys a heads up, come November of this year, we will be rolling out the driver's license portion of our integrated system, and around July of 25 will be, July of 26 is when we are going to be rolling out the motor vehicle portion of our integrated system, which will take 50 different systems and put them all into one system, which will be very beneficial for us and even our customers that we serve throughout the state of Missouri. For the license offices, so we've had many offices that have had to go to rebid actually lately. So one of our biggest ones was the downtown office in St. Louis. I think we put it out multiple times. We reached out to city officials. We reached out to different advocacy groups trying to essentially beg for someone to bid on the office, because it is such a vital office for a lot of our constituents throughout the within the city of St. Louis. We were able to get that open, but there have been some problems because, again, it's a brand new person that had never had experience within the license office field, and it creates a little problem with that. And we're seeing that, Bethany license office, we couldn't even get a bid. We had to actually close that office this last year. So the people up in Bethany, Missouri actually do not have a license office. And if a lot of you guys know, in rural Missouri, they're probably going about an hour out of their way if they need to go visit a license office. And it's become, it becomes a hurdle for them to be able to access the services they need. Again, many of the current license office holders we have are just not going to rebid their office. So when that happens, we might get one bid out of that office. We might get two, but more than likely we get one bid, and the person wins automatically, and it might not be the best person for to run a license office, but we have to try and educate them and get them spun up so they can serve our customers as well. As for, I know Senator Searpoy, when you were talking about the nonprofits, I know sometimes the questions come around is it any nonprofit and stuff? We have a list that we work with. We work with DSS and on the nonprofits that are out there for homeless shelters and stuff, and we know who we check that list when we get that application when it comes in for the address that they have. But though, if the person were to ever move, go to a different shelter or something like that, they are required to let the department know their change in address as well. Other than that, there's some very, I will say, new provisions that will do great things, and I know it's for information, but I just want to say on these parts, a lot of us get calls. I know I get calls in my office a lot about the even odd year registration stuff. So now there's a lot of these dealerships are trying to sell their 23 cars. It's 2024 right now. So what happens is you can only, when you come in to register at the department, right now per law, you can only get a registration for a year. You can't do a 2-year registration. This will allow for a 2-year registration for anyone that comes in. So I get a lot of complaints about that all the time. And then the other one is in regards to horsepower. We are the only state in the nation that deals in registering vehicles based upon horsepower. This sets a flat fee of $25 for vehicles, and it's you will know when you go in that you're going to have to, it's $25, and you don't have to do a mathematical equation, or our clerks don't have to do a mathematical equation, which it's laid out in statute, as you can see in the sub, that it's very cumbersome. And you know, one person might look at a vehicle and think of it something different than another person as well. So there's not a lot of, we want to get it more streamlined and make it more detailed. So those are the two I kind of think that will alleviate a lot of problems probably that you guys get calls on into your office.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you. Please be
Thanks.
sure to leave a witness form. Anyone else wishing to testify for informational purposes only? Seeing none, this concludes our hearing on House Committee Substitute for House Bill 1775. We will now hear House Bill 2719. Representative, we are ready when you are.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Appreciate the opportunity to present this legislation before you today. For the record, my name is Brad Hudson. I represent District 138 in the Missouri House, presenting House Bill 2719, which passed out of the House Economic Development Committee unanimously with consent, also passed out of the Consent and House Procedures Committee with consent, and with overwhelming bipartisan support passed on the House floor, 128 yes, 16 no, and 1 present. House Bill 2719 pertains to the Tourism Supplemental Revenue Fund. This is the fund that receives a general revenue transfer to maintain the operations of the Missouri Division of Tourism, as well as the Missouri Film Office. In 1993, House Bill 188 created a funding formula and tourism supplemental revenue fund for the Division of Tourism. Through this formula, a percentage of the growth in tax revenues from tourism-related businesses was to be reinvested each year for tourism marketing. The funding formula went into effect on July 1st, 1994. The formula and corresponding tourism supplemental revenue fund were reauthorized in subsequent years. The 2013 reauthorization designated June 30th, 2020 as the sunset for the formula. In January, it was discovered that language in the formula's sunset provision pertained also to the Tourism Supplemental Revenue Fund itself and not just the formula. So as such, the fund is technically sunset. So what we're trying to do here is to eliminate language that had existed for many years and is no longer applicable, such as the SIC codes to determine funding for the Division of Tourism, and also reauthorizing or recreating the Tourism Supplemental Revenue Fund to maintain Division of Tourism operations in FY25 and beyond. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Any questions for the representative? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone here wishing to testify in favor, please come forward. Be sure to leave a witness form.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tracy Kimberlin. I represent the Missouri Association of Convention and Visitors Bureaus, and we strongly endorse this particular bill. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to testify in favor? Anyone wishing to testify against? Anyone for informational purposes only? This concludes our hearing on House Bill 2719. Seeing no other business before the body, Fiscal Oversight is concluded.